Hey guys, welcome. This is going to be a quick video on leveling these larger lathes. If you're not used to it, you can do a bit of back and forth with being how many feet they have. So you need to go about it a certain way if you want to get it done kind of half right. This lathe has 20 feet. 20 leveling feet, that is. So what you want to do when you're moving it in is set the lathe right down on your floor. It's better to not have them on dunnage so you don't have to remove that later. You can if you want, but it's easier if you just set them right on the floor and deal with them after. And when they're on the floor, usually they're not on feet. So you'll jack the machine up one end at a time. You will put one foot in wherever you want under one side. Same with the back. So you'll go 1 foot on here, 1 foot on the back side. And same with the rear of the lathe. You'll want 1 foot up front, 1 foot on the back. So you'll be resting on 4 points. And you'll jack all of these leveling bolts up so none of them are touching. And you will start leveling the lathe on 4 points wherever they might roughly be, wherever you want them. And when you have the jacking bolts lifted up, you will stick all your feet in so they're not touching. Same with the back side. And then on the bedways, usually you find a place you can level it from, either right on these couple of ways, if they're in good shape, and you can also do it off the saddle, the cross slide. This one's pretty beat up, so I'm not going to be setting a level on there. I'm going to be using just something I have that's accurate to go off of the front and back flat ways. And I've got one position right by the chuck and one position at the tailstock end. I did get this lathe roughly leveled with a laser level, shooting the laser on the bottom of this way. You can use a contractor's level to get it close, or you can just use a straight up machinist level. Whatever you prefer, but I got it close and then I brought my level home. And we are high on the rear side of the lathe. So being we're only on 4 points, it makes it very easy to adjust this lathe. You don't have to move all 10 of the feet on this side to bring this side of the lathe down. You just have to go off of the one that on each end of the lathe that holds the weight. So it'll be pretty heavy, but it's a lot easier to level the lathe. You don't have to go through all 20 of them. So I'll bring it within reason, and I'll bring you back here. So I've been cranking these feet down. The level's moving. And all I'm doing is I'm lowering this screw, and then I'm lowering this screw. Those are my 2 points that this lathe is sitting on this side. You just want to choose a couple easy screws to get at and get her close. So as you can see, it's still high on this side. It's low on this side. We'll keep working at it. After a little more work, the bubble is pretty close. It's good enough for this rough go. So you'll take the level, you'll go to the front of the machine and check how we are doing. So as you can see, I've went a little too far on this side, and now this side is high. So I'll work that out. I can't really film this. This lathe is pretty heavy. So you just put it on, start cranking it up to make this side higher. Checking your level. See, so we can see it's creeping. Got to go a little more. And when you get close to the middle, you start slowing down on the cranking. So you just give it little bits, because this bubble will start moving pretty fast. See, it's still creeping. Pretty close. We'll give it just a little whisker. Didn't do much. Pretty close. So that's the lathe being tilted each way. And for the other way, I'll just move it onto the bed, straight onto the ways. So we're actually not that far out. Less than half a bubble. But the rear of this lathe is high. So I may, and I will probably take a look at how the machine looks on the concrete and either raise the front or lower the back. So I'll check this other way. It is even closer, so this lathe has a bit of a twist to it. Not much, a few thou I think, but when we get it down and start resting it on the other feet, we will see if we can get that twist out. After probably a good 30 minutes, I have worked the tilt pretty good. We'll come down to the back of the lathe with the level. Set her down. Within we'll call it within a line and a half. And then this way on the lathe, within pretty close. Back side, which is actually the front side. Pretty close, within a line by the looks of it. Bring it towards kind of front of the lathe. Might be on something, it felt a little weird. Let me just check. Yeah, that's a bit better. It was within a couple lines when I checked. It's giving me about 2 lines out now. This way. Telling me 3 lines. Probably a couple lines. But for most lathes, that is pretty good. I had to set it on 5 feet to get a little bit of the twist out of it. But even now, it has a little bit of a bow down the length. We're still on 5 feet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let it sit unsupported in the middle. I'll see where it settles out at after a few days, most likely, maybe a week or so. I'll play with it some more. But honestly, for most old lathes that aren't perfect anymore, if you can get them even within half a bubble, you're doing pretty good. Like half the whole bubble, that's even decent if you're not using other levels for leveling parts or something like that. And I'll spin this level around, see if it's reading accurate both ways. Which it about is. It'll depend where you have it. So it's reading pretty good that way, actually. So the level might be a few tenths off, but for what we did with this old lathe, it's a lot better than it was. What you would do now, if you were to complete this off, is you would slowly touch these down just so it puts like a hand's weight on it, on the screw. And then you'd go around and you'd just take them and just tweak them with a wrench, just so you'd pull on them just so they're touching down. Because 10 screws aside, it puts a lot of weight down to move this lathe easily. If you know what I mean, it'll start tweaking the lathe a little bit if you do too much other than just tiny amounts of turning pressure. But yep, for a rough leveling, I'm pretty happy with that. I might even do that right now. Just tweak all the feet down because we're pretty close. So let's actually do. So all we do is just make sure these are about hand tight. Do this all the way down the lathe. Shouldn't move it. Need to turn that one with a wrench. Front of the lathe, same thing. Get the darn thing in frame. It's kind of hard to hold this camera and lean way down and twist these, but you get the idea. Just drop them all down. Well, I've got all the feet roughly tight. Our level didn't really move. All 20 of the feet seem to be not bad. We got pretty lucky with the floor over there. We had just enough adjustment that it leveled up without running out of travel in the screws. It looks pretty good. So I'm confident that this lathe is within probably 10 thousandths down the whole bed length right now. I don't have any of the locks done up for the feet. The locking nuts. So when I come back to re-level this in some time, I'll check it and then I'll do all the locks up to make sure it hasn't gone anywhere, let it settle out. It's pretty simple. You just lower your highs and raise your lows. And if it's got a twist or a bend or a bow, it's a little more complex to work out. You might have to let some parts hang over an extended period of time. You might have to even, if it's really bad, you might have to bolt this machine down and even clamp it down to try and force it back into level. But this one's got enough mass in it that it didn't get too far out of whack. So it's plenty good for this old lathe once we get it all locked down. And yeah, so that's how you level those things. Start out with minimal feet. If you've got a bow or a twist, you might have to add feet or take feet out or do something. And yeah, when you got all the feet, the four points roughly leveled, you start bringing your other feet down and just real lightly touch them on the concrete. Then yeah, snug them up just a hair and going from just tiny amounts down the length and then the back side to turning at the exact same amount. You just kind of go off a feel, how tight they are, how far you're turning the wrench, and it should be pretty close. When you get within a couple lines, you have to just start going real slow with it. And a good leveling is a must. Yep, that's it. Take her easy and good luck.